Hi, this is Suzanne. Welcome to Episode 2 about the celestial phenomenon over Nuremberg, Germany. We ended the last episode with a reading of the Basel pamphlet. The occurrences over the two cities happened during approximately a 5-year period. After the introduction, I will replay the reading of the Basel pamphlet. In looking at our friendly Google Maps, it's just over 4 hours from Nuremberg, Germany, at an elevation of 1,042 feet, to Basel, Switzerland, at 803 feet. The distance is 273.8 miles. There does not appear to be a point-to-point route as the crow flies. While the Alps are near, they are to the south. Basel is only 203.5 miles away from the Alps. Nuremberg is just over double that at 409.7 miles from the Alps. Both cities are by large, well-known rivers. Basel is by the Rhine River, while Nuremberg, in the state of Bavaria, which is the largest German state in southeast Germany, is by the Danube. As a point of interest, there's a large and famous forest between the two cities, Schwarzwald, and in English, it's called the Black Forest. I'd like to go down a quick rabbit hole, if you don't mind. With thanks to Wikipedia. In looking up the Black Forest, I was reminded about Black Forest cake. So here's a quick quote from Wikipedia's posting about Black Forest cake. Black Forest gateau, or Black Forest cake, is a chocolate sponge cake with a rich cherry filling based on the German dessert Schwarzwälder Kirschtorte, literally Black Forest cherry tort. Typically, Black Forest gateau consists of several layers of chocolate sponge cake sandwiched with whipped cream and cherries. Sounds delicious. Thanks, Wikipedia. This is something that I learned about from Rick Steves' show about Nuremberg, which you can find online. He talks about Nuremberger Albrecht Dürer creating engravings from etched metal plates, and he's also known for creating a logo or mark that he used to sign his paintings with. The etchings that he created made prints affordable, and on Rick Steves' show about Nuremberg, it was suggested that he was perhaps one of the earliest best-selling artists. So while we aren't trying to explain away what happened, the strange prints are enough to make you wonder what they were trying to record in the illustrations. From weather phenomena like sundogs to meteor showers, and I'm sure a number of other things. But the thought of them all happening at once is indeed awe-inspiring. Hans refers to them as being from God to inspire repentance. When trying to hypothesize about the cause, I started thinking perhaps it was decided that they should stack some of the things that were being reported. But then the report is that it happened, all of it, during that one single morning in Nuremberg, which is baffling. So I guess this is one mystery that is going to stay unknown, at least for the moment.
It happened in 1566 3 times, on 27 and 28 of July and on August 7. Against the sunrise and sunset, we saw strange shapes in the sky above Basel. During the year 1566, on the 27th of July, after the sun had shone warm on the clear, bright skies, and then around 9 p.m., it suddenly took a different shape and color. First, the sun lost all its radiance and luster, and it was no bigger than the full moon. And finally it seemed to weep tears of blood, and the air behind him went dark. And he was seen by all the people of the city and countryside. In much the same way also the moon, which has already been almost full and has shone through the night, assuming an almost blood-red color in the sky. The next day, Sunday, the sun rose at about 6 o'clock and slept with the same appearance it had when it was lying before. He lit the houses, streets, and around as if everything was blood-red and fiery. At the dawn of August 7, we saw large black spheres coming and going, with great speed and precipitation before the sun and chattered as if they led a fight. Many of them were fiery red and soon crumbled and then extinguished. Intense stuff to see, and it's just happening at different time periods, as like the harvest moon, or the isn't that the one that turns red?
I think so, yeah.
The blood red, I remember seeing that when you were little and just being kind of shocked. I hadn't seen one before. I guess just too busy as a teenager or a little kid or whatever, and we, if we'd see the sky or the stars or whatever, I hadn't caught it at the time when it was a red moon.
Uh-huh.
I'd been taught, I think it was in Revelations, something about that. Let me see if there's any quotes. Everything you need to know about the blood moon apocalypse. Okay.
Awesome, that's good.
Yeah, this is the Washington Post. And it's reported by Abby Olheiser, reporter, on April 3rd, 2015, at 2:05 in the afternoon. So she says, the sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord. Joel 2:31.
I looked it up because I hadn't heard about the book of Joel. I have only really studied the King James Version of the Bible. The book of Joel is part of the Hebrew Bible, one of 12 prophetic books known as the 12 Minor Prophets. This is from Wikipedia.
In Acts 2:20, the sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and notable day of the Lord. She says, so potentially not a good day for humans. So Revelation 6:12 says, when he opened the sixth seal, I looked, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth. The full moon became like blood. Those verses came from 100 Bible verses about the red moon on openbible.info/topics/the_red_moon. Acts 2:20 says, the sun shall be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the day of the Lord comes, the great magnificent day. So we have these two things that happened within a decade of each other, and 3 sightings in
Basel.
The one over Nuremberg, it could have been they were passing through, I guess, a comet's tail, but that's a really slow comet. It's like, okay. There's stuff that it seems to explain all the different parts of it, but maybe not all of it at the same time, and that all these weird things would be happening together.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if we can find that Hans Glasser aurora. I'm not seeing anything, so I don't know where they pulled up the aurora of the 2 knights fighting. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, I just don't know where they found it. On abovetopsecret.com/forum/thread907719/PG1, we're looking at Nuremberg UFO battle of 1561 debunked. They're showing a picture on here that we'll put on Instagram depicting an aurora on, it looks like December 28th of 1560. It looks like fire is raining down from the sky and clouds above it. They also show a sundog with a cross over the face of the sun and 2 moon crescents facing the sun with faces on them. So a stylized sundog. I guess if they did a lot of this religious symbology stylized, smashed in together on one piece of art, there could be something to that, but I still don't know that that's... We're not necessarily figuring out all of this. We were also going to talk about art. I'm going back to my notes. The Zentralbibliothek in Zurich, Switzerland is the city library. That's where this wood print is stored and archived.
So Carl Jung, basically this sighting, the 1561 celestial phenomenon over Nuremberg, was kind of not really widely recognized until Carl Jung brought it back in his mid-century writing about UFOs and the UFO phenomenon. And that was in his book called Flying Saucers, A Modern Myth of Things Seen in the Sky, which was published in 1959. So that's kind of when it started to become more popular in the modern day, or even just known about in the modern day, was because of Carl Jung's book. So this is the description from the book Flying Saucers by Carl Jung. So the description of the book is, in the threatening situation of the world today, when people are beginning to see that everything is at stake, the projection-creating fantasy soars beyond the realm of earthly organizations and power into the heavens, into interstellar space, where the rulers of human fate, the gods, once had their abode in the planets. Even people who never have thought that a religious problem could be a serious matter that concerned them personally are beginning to ask themselves fundamental questions. Under these circumstances, it would not be surprising if those sections of the community who ask themselves nothing were visited by visions, by a widespread myth seriously believed in by some and rejected as absurd by others. That's a quote from Flying Saucers. Jung's primary concern in Flying Saucers is not with the reality or unreality of UFOs, but with their psychic aspect. Rather than speculate about their possible nature and extraterrestrial origin as alleged spacecraft, he asks what it may signify that these phenomena, whether real or imagined, are seen in such numbers, just at a time when humankind is menaced as never before in history. The UFOs represent, in Jung's phrase, a modern myth.
Okay. So he knows something's up and that people are noticing something.
Yeah.
This is a quote from Wikipedia. The woodcut is a relief printing technique in printmaking. An artist carves an image into the surface of a block of wood, typically with gouges, leaving the printing parts level with the surface while removing the non-printing parts. Areas that the artist cuts away carry no ink, while characters or images at surface level carry the ink to produce the print. The block is cut along the wood grain, unlike wood engraving where the block is cut in the end grain. The surface is covered with ink by rolling over the surface with an ink-covered roller brayer, leaving ink upon the flat surface, but not in the non-printing areas. So I think I have your brayer. It's in the art room. I was like, what's this? Oh, I could do this with this. And I was like, no, I never had one of these. I think this is Emily's from school.
And that's okay, because printmaking has made me realize that I am a painter through and through. I am not a printmaker.
You're not into it? Not your bag?
No, I was just going through my art room, cleaning stuff out, and I found a self-portrait that I did, and I have a drawing that I was going to be doing a copper etching with, and the drawing is just a million times better than my print would ever have been. It was so bad.
Oh no. So printmaking then is its own artistic talent to be able to get it to show up.
Yeah. So This one right here is the print.
The one on the right?
And the other one is the drawing.
And has more motion and movement and...
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see what you're talking about. If you were up for it, you could also show that, the side-by-side. Just the subtleties that can be lost in printmaking.
May not have been like that for people who are classically trained, like printmakers, like how I'm a classically trained painter,
It looks like printing from engraved plates, they're saying music started around 1446.
That's kind of what that print was that I just showed you. It's a copper engraved plate.
We'll be sure to share this on Instagram so you can see what we're talking about.
When was Gutenberg?
I want to say the 1400s.
When was the Gutenberg Bible printed? 1455. Good one. Yeah, the Gutenberg Bible is the first substantial book printed in the West with movable metal type. Before its printing in 1454 or 1455, books were either copied by hand or printed from engraved wooden blocks, a process that could take months or years to complete. That's from the Harry Ransom Center on the Gutenberg Bible. hrc.utexas.edu is where that was found. the University of Texas at Austin. It seems like a whole episode on wood engraving blocks would be its own thing. Since we're just kind of capturing the spooky side of things, we're touching on the history and this particular piece of the celestial phenomenon over Nuremberg. Seems like some funky things were going on at the time, and that it might be interesting to dig into that time period some more around the 1500s. It would be interesting to know what was going on in the skies during that time period, or, volcanoes, or, like that totally affects sunset and sunrise.
Yeah.
It seems to be a matter of the whole summer. The sunrises or the sunsets were just immensely peachy and rosy, and so it didn't just go away. The ash and the gases and whatever it is that are causing the effect are still in the air for a while.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I don't have any answers for that kind of stuff. Do you have any other things you'd like to say?
No, I don't think so. I'll try to find that UFO print. The block, I don't know where it is. If I can't find it, I'll post a picture of the selfie, like the drawing versus the print, and I'll see if I can find the copper that I carved on.
My husband's mom passed away in December, and this book in particular is something that was hers, and she likes funky stuff, or did, just like we do. And this book is UFO, The Continuing Enigma, Quest for the Unknown by Reader's Digest. So,
of course she had that.
Yes, she did. So this also could be somewhat dedicated to Grandma. In this book, page 135, they talk about spook lights, the Brown Mountain lights of North Carolina, which they saw around 1771. The lights appear they're about 20 inches in diameter and are closer to the ground, though. They're not in the sky. They make a sizzling noise, and it's not necessarily a UFO. I think that some of the lights have been explained as escaping methane gas. I don't know if it's ignited or, like after
an earthquake, for example.
I don't know if it's like a plate shift or what, but when the gas escapes, it could cause potentially a light in the sky as it, I don't know if it combusts or what would happen. So,
yeah.
Again, I am not a scientist. I'm an artist. So the Brown Mountain lights are an interesting glowy light, maybe not in the sky, but closer to ground. Says, what were our ancestors seeing? Like the biblical prophets, people in the Middle Ages tended to interpret these aerial phantoms as religious portents. The possibility always remains, of course, that they were simply misinterpreting ordinary atmospheric phenomena, such as meteors and the aurora borealis or northern lights. The possibility also exists that they were witnessing something truly anomalous, and as we shall see, strikingly similar sights have been reported by more modern observers as well. They talk about UFOs in the Bible and that. And then there was one last. Well, this is a timeline. It's UFOs through the ages. 15th century BC Egypt. The pharaoh Thutmose III saw silent, foul-smelling circles of fire and flying discs in the sky. It continues on to Nuremberg, when the early morning sky was filled with over 200 cylindrical UFOs, spheres, and spinning discs. And they continue on through Russia, Mexico. That was in chapter 1. So that's that book.
This next reading is from Gardner's Art Through the Ages.
A new age opens in the 15th century with a sudden technological advance that will shape human experience henceforth. The German invention of printing with movable type. Printing had been known in China centuries before, but it had never been developed, as it would be in Europe, into a revolution in written communication. In the generation and management of information, printing provided new and challenging media for the artist. The earliest form being the woodblock or woodcut print. A block of wood sawed along the grain is covered with a white ground upon which a design is drawn in ink. Using a gouging instrument, the artist Following the inked lines cuts a map of hollows and ridges. The ridges are inked and carry the design. The hollows remain dry of ink and don't print. When paper is pressed upon the inked relief, it receives the reversed impression of the design. Woodblock prints were made before movable type printing was developed. But when the requirements of book illustration were to be met on a grand scale, the trick was to bring the woodcut picture onto the same page as the letterpress. This was efficiently achieved in the illustrations, over 650 of them, for the so-called Nuremberg Chronicle, a history of the world, produced in the shop of the Nuremberg artist Michel Wolgemut, 1434 to 1519. Continuing, the woodcut medium had hardly matured when the technique of engraving, inscribing on a hard surface wood or metal, begun in the 1430s and well developed by 1450, proved a much more flexible technique, and in the second half of the century began to replace the woodcut, both for making book illustrations and for widely popular single prints. The reverse of the woodcut technique, which produces relievo, or relief, metal engraving produces an intaglio, incised, surface for printing. The incised lines, hollows of the design, taking the ink rather than the ridges. Martin Schongauer, 1450 to 1491, was the most skilled and subtle northern master of metal engraving. You've had some experience with it. It's pretty cool at school. With, even though you were downplaying it, it's not something everybody does. Grunwald's great contemporary Albrecht Dürer, 1471 to 1528, felt that much of the art of the North was crude and devoid of order, and that in comparison with Italian art, it appeared to him old-fashioned, clumsy, and without knowledge.
For more information about Albrecht Dürer, check our Instagram feed.
And then one last book. Okay, this is Meg's History of Graphic Design, 5th edition. Page 45, The Invention of Movable Type. Another early form of Chinese graphic design and printing was playing cards. Figure 3 to 18, these sheet dice were first printed on heavy paper about the time paged books were replacing manuscript scrolls. A benchmark in block printing reproducing beautiful calligraphy with perfection was established in China by 1000 CE and has never been surpassed. The calligrapher was listed with the author and printer in the colophon. State printers were joined by private printers as histories and herbals, science and political science. Poetry and prose were carved onto blocks of wood and printed. The quiet revolution that printing wrought upon Chinese intellectual life brought about a renaissance of learning and culture just as surely as Johann Gutenberg's invention of movable type in the West did more than 500 years later. This is page 45. This transitional period in European history began in 14th century Italy and was marked by rediscovery of classical knowledge, a flowering of the arts, and the beginnings of modern science. All were aided by printing. With the availability of, so this is movable typography in Europe, same book, page 72. With the availability of paper, relief printing from wood blocks, and growing demand for books, the mechanization of book production by such means as movable type was sought by printers in Germany, the Netherlands, France, and Italy. Cute little hedgehog, if you want to see.
Yes. Will you lift it up just a little bit? Oh my gosh! Super cute.
It says that is ex libris design for Johannes Knabensberg, 1450s, one of the earliest extant book plates. It bears an inscription, Hans Eigler, that the hedgehog may kiss you. Eigler Nansberg's nickname is similar to the German word for hedgehog, making this an early graphic pun. Okay, they were kind of dry. I think that's enough to keep everybody asleep. So.
Okay.
I don't think I've really created my own stamps like you guys have. I may have tried it, like I said, in one of those after-school programs.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if they were tiles or what they were that we were trying to learn on, but anyway, so yeah, I think that's cool. I'll look forward to seeing your process shots if you can find them.
Yeah, I'll see what I can pull together, and yeah.
I'm sorry you're sick. And did we have any news or things we needed to end up with?
I don't have anything.
We're back for season 2. If you guys have any stories you want to share with us, spooky stories from your art studios, from the galleries, art related, might be interesting to other artists, we'd love to hear it and be able to share it.
We'll give you a shout out, and we can tag you on our Instagram page as well.
We're glad you guys are still with us. Looking forward to our new season. Did we want to do one last thing? Did we want to do this? What was it? Simple joy or a joy moment?
Yeah, actually I do. My work for my Christmas party gave out peppermint hot chocolate kits, and they gave like peppermint hot cocoa powder, peppermint marshmallows, and like peppermint sticks. So I've been making one of those almost every day and doing like totally gourmet, like whipped cream on top, putting like marshmallows in there, using the peppermint as the stir stick, like the whole 9 yards. So that has been really awesome and something that I have started to kind of like look forward to every day.
That sounds really nice. I guess my moment was yesterday. I began pulling my art studio back together. We had cleared it out for our Christmas party. So I was feeling a little strewn all over the place. And I have 3 more pieces of the Hong Kong book to finish. And I am done. That will be a thing probably mid-spring is what the author tells me. So it's kind of that creative spark moment. So
That sounds awesome.
We hope you have a great couple of weeks, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Are you still with us? If so, it's been a while since we've shared some music. After hearing so many snippets of Johann Pachelbel's Canon in D, we thought we should include it in its entirety. The canon was written in 1680. This version, or recording, was arranged by Lee Ashley for the movie Dude, Where's My Car? We got this music on the Internet Archive and are using it under fair use.